Hello, everybody. I'm Amanda McCormick. Welcome to this Google Hangout on creating a website that's true to you. This is a short class and kind of a workshop on creating a website that will help develop a creative career, especially if you're a writer. I'm particularly interested in writers because, first of all, I am one. And second of all, I've just been having a lot of conversations lately via Facebook about getting questions from writers about how do I create a website. There's so many options out there. It's very overwhelming. And part of this session that I'm about to present to you today um, grew out of a talk that I did at Paragraph New York a couple of years ago. So Paragraph New York is a co-working space for writers. So as you can see, I got together. Oh wait, I got to screen share that with you. There we go. I'm going to screen share. Just bear with me for a moment. This is my very first Google Hangout, so it's all new to me. But I'm hoping if it works out, I'll do a few more. Okay, so I'm going to take you to the deck. Okay, just kind of get started with this. Okay, so creating a website that's true to you. The idea for this really sprang from a session that I did working with authors at Paragraph New York, which is a co-working space for writers. I found that the writers there were many, many very celebrated writers. They had books out, nonfiction, fiction. They had a lot of confusion about what to do with the web. They had heard that they should be using Facebook and Twitter. They kind of knew the web was important, but they didn't know how to start. So it was a really, really interesting session with them, and I've been thinking about it ever since. You're going to find in this talk that I give that I have particular philosophies about using the web to develop your career and to build a creative life. They're very particular. They're not things that necessarily everyone shares, but I think you'll find in them some valuable information. So let me talk about what I hope that you're going to get out of this session today. Most of all, I hope that you'll use it to learn how to use the web to tell your story better, to get to the heart of what you want to communicate to your audience, and build more relationships with that audience. I want to help you see in a large sense of possibilities via WordPress. So I know there may be many people out there listening that have used WordPress before. They know it, but they feel frustrated. They have some limitations. I want you to be able to see past that today, hopefully through some of the material that I present. If you're a beginner and you haven't put together a website, I want you to have the inspiration to get started and to get out there and try things. And then finally, I want you to have the knowledge to ask the right questions. So if you want to collaborate with a web designer, how are you going to ask the right questions to get what you want? So let me tell you a little bit about me. So currently I'm a freelance web designer and developer. I do digital marketing consulting for small businesses, and I also do training in corporations. Sometimes corporations hire me to go in and do training sessions with their staffs, which are really fun. But I began my career as a copywriter, as a writer, and then I transitioned into content editing. I know there are many people out there that are very similar to me. You move from writing to content editing. You kind of have this idea about how the web works. You kind of have a sense of HTML. You can fake it. You know what those opening and closing tags mean. But that was kind of it. That was kind of all I really knew about in terms of how the web worked. So I started really working on web projects seriously around the time the social media was transforming marketing in a major way. So people were starting to use social media, Facebook and Twitter, to really get the word out about their projects, their companies. And I found myself at a nonprofit, the Film Society of Lincoln Center, where we had a lot of fans out there that really loved us, but we weren't giving them a lot of channels to express that love. And there was a frustration that I had with the way our website was built, which was very, very old and not very flexible. And so I learned WordPress by necessity. It was just the tool that was available to me. It was free, open source. I could do great things with it. But then I was gradually completely astounded by the fact that I could really, do anything with it. The limitations were really my own skill level. So after that, I started to play around with WordPress quite a bit, and it just was very excited by the possibilities. So that leads me to this very important quote that I think kind of sums up the things, the transformations that's been wrought on the internet by social media. So and by just the proliferation of different sites that we can use to promote our careers, et cetera, et cetera. This is Seth Godin, who said, the rule the internet broke is that everyone who has a receiver also has a transmitter. So it used to be that we would receive these advertising messages from on high. We couldn't really talk back to the brands and entities and celebrities out there that were talking to us, but now we all have a transmitter. And that's, to me, is an incredibly exciting thing. It's very empowering, especially to creative people, to writers. And something that I started to pay attention to a lot in the past couple of years is this concept of the artist as entrepreneur. I'm sure you all know about this. So it's Louis C.K. saying, I'm going to self-distribute my comedy show live at the Beacon Theater for $5, and just, he made $1 million in 12 days. It just was a complete huge success, and he didn't work with a larger conglomerate. He did it himself. Amanda Palmer, of course, is funding her operations via Kickstarter. You've seen all this with movies, with different kinds of projects on Kickstarter, people just going to the masses, going to the crowd, and asking for money on the one hand. But you can also think of that as the artists just changing their stripes. Like, they're just taking on a different way of interacting with their fans and saying, this is kind of a business, this is my business, and I would rather go to you, the fans, just as Amanda Palmer said, I would rather go to you, the fans, than to go to a big company. You can support me. So obviously that changes the stakes a lot for writers and for creative people. It means we kind of can't rest on our laurels and just do the creative work and put it out there in the world. We have to really take control of the way we build our relationships with our audience. And that's what I hope you get out of this. I hope that's the larger thing that you get out of this talk today, is that you have the power to do that. If you just utilize a little bit of technology in the right way, there's a lot you can do. So as I mentioned, I worked with the gang at Paragraph, some of the writers there, because I had a very strong kind of reaction to many of the book and author sites that I had seen. They're very much old web. I think you can kind of visualize this in your mind. You see a kind of animated splash page, like little things flying around. They're really cute and interesting, but I call that the Chotkey approach. It's like a little figurine unicorn that's like really cool looking, but it's only cool looking once, and people generally spend a lot of money on it. Their site breaks in a year because it's very fancy, and like it's just too precious, It's kind of the old, traditional approach to web design. It's design driven, it's static, you just do it one and done, that's it. It's supposed to impress the user when they first come to it, but there's no future plan there. That they're not expecting the user to come back and be excited about that content. So that's the thing that I want to kind of steer you away from. And one of the early things that I realized when I was working in a nonprofit and we didn't really have like a lot of money to play with, is that there's a really powerful way in which a site can become kind of the core of a multi-pronged attack, where you syndicate content through all of these different channels. The more you can do that, the more of a ripple effect you can stand to have. So you've got the central website as a repository of information that you want to keep constantly updated, but you're always putting out these sort of tentacles into the world. Blog posts, you got your email newsletters, you got your Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, etc. Everything is going out all the time. It's incredibly powerful. You don't really have to do anything fancy with the website itself. It doesn't have to be fabulously designed, but just literally, if you're pushing content out there all the time, you really stand to create a ripple effect and get a bigger audience. So that was my early experiments with doing it myself. So really learning the technology behind WordPress and building websites that could be scalable, that could include full features that had to do with social media and attracting email signups, and just that could be constantly updated. And they used blog posts. So this is New Directors, New Films. It's the first WordPress site I ever built to represent a film festival that the Film Society did with the Museum of Modern Art. It was a really, really successful site. And I took everything I learned from that process and built an even bigger site the next year for the New York Film Festival that had even more social tools. And so since then, I've continued to work in that fashion, just building my own knowledge of WordPress and continuing on with that. And so I'm just, every day I'm learning there's a new thing that you can do. It's kind of no limit to what you can do with that platform. And I'll talk a bit more about using WordPress to build websites in a moment. But that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm building a lot of different kinds of projects and just kind of trying to test the limits of that particular system. My approach is a little different from some web designers who really do focus on that, like underline the design aspect of their websites. My approach is always content or message centered, and that's why I love working with writers because I think there's such a power to the web and to social media for storytelling, for creating messages. A really important part of my philosophy is that your website is not like that end product, kind of the way you might think about a book. So you create a book and it's done, and people read it. It's not an end product like a book. I would like to postulate to you that you consider your website what I call a relationship engine. So it's a thing that powers your relationship with a growing audience. If you tend to it, if you keep tending to it, it's going to just grow and grow and grow, as we've seen with many of those artists as entrepreneurs. And then the other thing is that wherever you feel comfortable starting to build those relationships is the right place to start. Again, so I want to demystify the process of building a website enough today so that you walk away and say, you know, maybe I'm not going to make sites like she has on her portfolio, or, you know, that's not my bag, but I will start today. I will go get a Tumblr, and I will start to build those relationships with my audience, because that's the final thing. It's really, really important to do that. Not so important how you do it, just that you're ready to start and that you will start soon and start today. I wanted to show you a couple of examples of what I mean by artists as entrepreneurs or writers who are really leveraging the web in a very creative way. Andy Borowitz is a great example. He's a guy who's a comedian. He really started to understand web tools very early on, that they'd be powerful when people, I guess, you know, I think in many ways we're thinking, oh, well, nobody wants to get another email. He started sending out the Borowitz report via email, leading back to his website where it had a repository of all of his humorous writing. So through that, and through building a profile via the web and via email and via social media, he's kind of created a little mini empire for himself, a little branded empire that allows him to live on many platforms such as television, books, you know, the web, obviously. So he's a great example of somebody who's really leveraged that opportunity. Baratunde Thurston is another person that I really admire for his very strategic approach to putting together a book. He wrote a book. He's an author, but he also very much participated in his own marketing and in his own building his own audience in a very creative way. So his campaign for How to Be Black was something that I paid a lot of attention to, and I happened to see him speak at a conference a couple of years ago. And so one of the things that I was able to jot down some notes about what he did differently than most writers in building an audience for his book, How to Be Black. So what he did was, and this is a little excerpt from it's called The Creative's Guide to Building an Awesome Web Presence. It's a little ebook that I wrote, so I will gladly give that to all of you after the session and put it in my Google Plus profile. So what Baratunde did differently is he decided that he was a marketer in addition to being an author. So he sat down and decided to learn a lot about marketing. He read Seth Godin, who's kind of the king of all, I guess, digital marketing. We all kind of pay attention to what Seth Godin's saying. An early adopter of social media, and somebody who really enjoyed it. He really understood the value of building a tribe. So we'll talk about that a little bit more, but just who are your advocates? We all have them. We all are writing about subjects that potentially have an audience out there. So the really smart thing that he did was he thought, how do I identify this tribe early on, and then turn these people into advocates. He hired what's called a campaign manager to build a street team. So he recruited these very strong advocates, what we might call evangelicals, for his message, and said, we'll put this in their hands. We'll have them kind of fan out across whatever cities they're in, get people excited about this book, getting people talking about this book, which is great. He really attempted to build a two-way channel via social media. And then he experimented with some techniques that are kind of newfangled and digital, like he wrote via screen share just to show people his process. So that's just another way of involving your audience in something that you do, which is very interesting to me, I think. So Baratunde Thurston, great, really smart guy in the digital realm. He's also an author. I think he's a fantastic example of really doing digital marketing for a book in a very savvy way and using the web in a very new way. I threw in a slide from Miranda July, who I really love too. She's doing something completely different here. It's really of a completely different ilk, but I love the way she uses the web to really create immersive projects that are sort of art projects in and of themselves. So it's just an interesting thing to look at. I find it really engaging as a site that I want to go back to and kind of explore, and I never really know what she's going to be doing. So she's really adopted the web in that way, which I think is great. Robin Sloan is another writer that I'd love for you guys all to pay attention to. To me, this is kind of the perfection in what you want to do nowadays with a website at the bare minimum. So you see this website, it doesn't look that fancy, but really what he's doing is very smart. He's telling you exactly who he is, and as you notice, he has a gigantic email subscribe button, which is really, really important, and we'll talk about why in a moment. But Robin Sloan is a sci-fi writer. He has many experiments that he's trying to experiment with transmedia storytelling, so storytelling using digital technology in and of itself, which I think is great. So very good model here, and I'm going to return to it later. Oh, sorry, I have my dogs barking. One core question that you might have around websites and making websites is there only one good way to make a website? Because you're going to be talking to a lot of people out there. This is a question that I get a lot from people out there. Is there only one way to do this? And to me, absolutely not. There is no single good way to make a website. That's part of what makes the whole process so incredibly overwhelming. I just wanted to talk you through a couple of options that if you were going to say, okay, today, Amanda, I'm going to make a website. I don't know a lick of coding. What do I do? Am I crazy? Is this going to happen? These are all great options for that. So you could go to Tumblr. Tumblr is a great, it's a kind of a blogging platform / social media platform. I do another session, and maybe I'll bring that to Google Plus as well, but I do another session on using Tumblr for marketing. I think Tumblr is fabulous. You can go there, set something up really fast. In fact, my mom just went to Africa. I set her up a Tumblr. This is fabulous. She was great. She was Tumblring it up. She was fantastic. Wix.com is a kind of a drag and drop website builder that you just kind of use like you would use, I don't know, like a PowerPoint. It's really simple. It's a site platform that I've used before, and I think it can be a completely valid approach. Squarespace, very much like that. I believe it's a little different in that they just have templates that they want you to use, and they have certain looks that you look at. You say, okay, this is the website that I want. You select it and use it, and you're done, basically. WordPress.com. This is when we begin to drill down into my my own kind of personal world of preference in terms of the way you build websites. WordPress.com is a platform for building blogs and sites, and I will talk a little bit about the distinctions in the world of WordPress so that you'll be less confused about that. That can be a kind of confusing subject. But WordPress.com, you could go there today, sign up, it's free. Very fantastic way to begin blogging, begin building a platform, begin building an audience. It's completely valid. So these are 4 things that I have used personally. I do recommend them to people in certain instances. I think they all have great applications. So I don't want to confuse you too much, but just so you know what kind of options are out there. These are all really great options for building an author site. But today, I want to talk to you a lot more about WordPress because WordPress is so ubiquitous. It's just used so much. It's a fantastic choice for many writers and for authors and creative people. The reason why is because it's so easy to use. It's so easy to try different things out with. So first of all, I want to just kind of demystify what WordPress is and what it isn't. So if you're just coming into the world of websites, you might hear the word WordPress and picture what I'm showing in front of me. This kind of blue iconic look that WordPress originally had. You kind of maybe think of it as a blog. I mean, that's really where it started. So basically, WordPress is a free and open source blogging tool and content management system. It was first released in 2003, and since then has gone through a number of changes. Really has advanced in leaps and bounds. It's changed a lot, even in the time that I've worked with it, so which is only about 5 years. So apparently, I've heard this quote bandied about: WordPress powers nearly 20% of the web, if you can believe that. That's what the WordPress founder Matt Mullenweg said. It's based on PHP and MySQL. Basically, those are some technologies that allow WordPress to create a database for your content, which is really important when you think about it. So a database allows you to have a content management system, a set of file folders and drawers to put all your content in, so that it can be retrieved by the user. That's great for writers because as we build a kind of library of content on our blogs or on our websites, it's just a filing system for content for people to discover. It stays on the web for all time, continues to draw visitors, which is great. It has a plugin architecture and template system. So templates are important to understand when we begin to talk about something called themes. Themes are the way you kind of dress up your WordPress site. They allow you to change its look and feel. So the template system is what allows that to happen in a very basic way. So there's a distinction that confuses a lot of people, and I think it's natural because it's very similar wording, and I don't think that the company has particularly done a great job of differentiating these two concepts. There is WordPress.com. WordPress.com is a software as a service platform, so you might want to think about it like a social network. Facebook is a software platform for social networking. So when we go on Facebook, we're agreeing to their terms of service. We are kind of just visiting. We don't actually own. There's been lots of talk about this, but we don't actually own anything we do on Facebook. With WordPress.com, you don't have exactly those same problems, but you are bound by their terms of service. So if you happen to do something like start a blog that critiqued the best friend of the founder or something, and they decided they didn't like that, they are free to do whatever they want because it's not your company, it's not your terms, it's their terms. So that's one thing to think about. So you're using somebody else's service essentially to post your material. You own all your material. It's your writing, it's your copyright, but it's somebody else's service that is hosting it. That's a good, hopefully a useful way to think about it. So it's a great place to get started with blogging, and they have enhanced so much about WordPress.com in the past few years. I imagine, I have not spent a lot of time with it lately, but I think you probably could build a fabulous full-featured site because I think they're just enhancing the functionality constantly. At the same time, you have a limited control of the back end, so if you start to want to do crazy stuff and interesting design stuff, and you're really into WordPress, you're going to hit a wall with WordPress.com because you just don't have access in the same way. Over on the right-hand side here, we have WordPress.org. WordPress.org is really important because it is, it's that fabulous kind of palette that web designers work with. It's a software. I just take a package that I pull off of WordPress.org site, take the software package. I can literally do whatever I want with it. It just has a core. I get started with that. I can build on top of it. I can go crazy. It allows complete customization. but it does require you to bring your own hosting plan. So you have to figure out a place to put all these wonderful files and folders that you're pulling off of the WordPress.org site. So that means you have to get a hosting plan. So you go to your GoDaddies, your Bluehost, your HostGators, you set up a hosting plan, and then you install WordPress. So that is how that distinction works. Okay, so one you're kind of renting, and the other you're kind of owning, I guess. That might be a way to think about it. And another way to think about it is, as you get more advanced and you want to have a more custom site, which all writers probably will do eventually, you're going to move more towards the right, WordPress.org. That's a really important thing to know. So what can WordPress do for you as a creative person or writer? I like to think of WordPress as a way of allowing for rapid, scalable web development built around content, because that's really what it is. It's right there in the name, WordPress. It's all about content. You can do so much with content in WordPress. And again, WordPress is that relationship engine, so it has all these modules, but at the end of the day, what we really can do is use it to build really, really strong relationships with our audience. Here it is again, all those connections pouring through. We kind of host all of our material on this core website that's really easy to run. I'm going to show you that in a second. Really, really easy to run. But you can push out content constantly from all these different areas, which I think is really, really great. Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about what you can do with WordPress. I'm going to show you a few sites that I think are interesting, and some that I worked on and some that I didn't. Okay, it's Two Serious Ladies. I want you guys to check this out. It's a great site. I did work on it. I can't claim responsibility for the design that's currently on the homepage. It's a literary magazine that features writing by women, and they hired me a couple of years ago to help them because they had been using WordPress, but they were frustrated by their lack of flexibility with the platform. And so I came on and I said, hey guys, I don't think you know this, but like WordPress has completely changed and there's a lot more flexibility. We can make your site mobile responsive. We can do all kinds of things. They had a tremendous, wonderful archive of fabulous writing by all these women that had been published previously. I'm like, we can do other things with your archives. So I worked with them to enhance the back end, and since then they've kind of been playing with the front end. They've been doing new design things. It always looks fabulous. It's a great site. Like I really admire it, even though I cannot claim credit for the design that they currently have up. But when you go there, it's a video that auto plays. It's very interesting. They have lots of art and photography up. I just think they do a great job with that magazine, and I just think it's a really interesting project. So I would check it out. Robin Sloan again. I love Robin Sloan because it's just a perfect example of a really simple, straightforward web page with no bells and whistles, but that's, I'm sure, really, really supporting his career, allowing him to do like Baratunde, to build a tribe of people that are giving him their email addresses. When his book comes out, he's leveraging that, and he's engaging people in content, which is really what they want. They want story and narrative. I came across this woman's website as I was preparing for this. Her name is Suzanne Andrew. I just think she did a fabulous job with this, so I just wanted to call it out. I'm not sure that this is actually WordPress, but it's something that I could do in WordPress. I just wanted to call your attention to it because it is, it's very visual, but yet it feels fresh and it feels modern. It doesn't feel like that kind of old Chotki thing. It's like a interesting graphic. I kind of get what's going on. She's got her debut novel out. Like I get the main event here. She's positioned very well on the homepage as like, who is she? What should I know about her? This whole thing is very clean. It feels fresh. I think they did a great job with the design. Nothing too crazy though. And just a good piece, a really good piece. So it just kind of shows you there's a huge variety in the things you can do. There's literally no, I don't think there's a stop that I can think of with WordPress in terms of how your site ends up looking. It's just matching the tool to what you want to do. So I'll tell you a little more about how WordPress actually works. Just kind of get into the guts a little bit. I don't want to get too technical because it might be something where you've just eaten lunch and you start to doze off or something. I wouldn't want that. But when you download and you plan to do, so say you were planning to do a self-hosted WordPress installation, you want to do your own site, you don't want to be on WordPresscom, you want your own kind of piece of real estate. The first thing you do is download the package. Actually, that's not true. I should back up. Probably many people will use a one-click installation of WordPress on their hosting account, which allows you to not have to deal with any of the stuff. But just so you know, if you are doing things manually, which is something that I do often myself, you download the software package from WordPress.org, and this is what it looks like. It's just a bunch of files, and this is how WordPress works. This is kind of the guts. It has all of these different files, and they're what create your site. And so once WordPress is installed, you guys may have seen something like this. This is what WordPress looks like from the dashboard. So it's a structure that is very much dependent on posts and pages and media. You see on the upper left-hand side. That's kind of how you organize your install of WordPress. You build it around posts and pages. Posts are generally what we think of as a blog, and pages are what we think of as just like a normal web page type of situation. There are many WordPress installations where you can add an additional category called portfolio. I've seen other things where we can create another custom post type that's for, you could create a book catalog, like if you were a book publisher, it could be a catalog of books, book titles. There's just lots of things you can do with an advanced developer. There's really no limit. But today I want to kind of stick more to the basics. And so this is kind of what you'd see. This is how you get publishing with your WordPress. You just start out by hitting new post, and you start to publish there. So it's about as easy as it can get. Then we need to talk about the theme, which is where people get a little freaked out. There are literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and maybe thousands of themes out there, which are ways of dressing up your WordPress installation in different kinds of clothing that will suit your brand better. And that's kind of what we're talking about today, how to create something that really suits your brands. So how to approach themes if you're really freaked out about it, and I would not blame you for being freaked out about it. There are just too many choices, and some of them are very, very hit or miss. So you may see something that you think looks really cool, but what happens if the guy who developed it lives in, South America and goes MIA for many years, and his theme is broken, and everything you own is kind of attached to that theme? That could be a very tragic situation for you. So for people that are new and starting out, I like to kind of steer them towards the WordPress default themes. So WordPress is a default theme that they release every year. 2010, they're named for the year. 2010, 2011, 2012, and 2013. 2013s you can see on the right here on the slide. It's kind of a photo-based magazine layout, which is really interesting. I haven't played around with it too much, but it's worth looking at. I think that 2012 and 2013 are both recent themes that are both mobile responsive themes, so that's important too. And then at WordPress.org/extend, there's a directory of free themes that are made by the community of avid WordPress developers, people that love WordPress. They create their own themes, so you can kind of peruse that and see if there's anything there that you like. And then there are paid marketplaces, which are places where you can buy what are called premium themes. They run from like $35 up to like $100. That's where you can buy a more.
Ask how Ross McCormack's going on. Is he moving from the Leeds?
I think he is.
That's good. You're right.
Yeah, I think so. I think he is. I don't know.
Hello?
Who's that?
It's Amanda.
Hi, Amanda.
Hi.
Hey.
Are you jumping on this the session?
What session?
It's we're creating a website that's true to you.
Oh, no, I think I'm in the wrong place.
Oh, okay.
I was meant to get off the bus a couple of stops back, sorry.
Okay. That was interesting. Okay, so paid themes abound. Um, that was interesting. All right. Um, so where was I? Okay, so we're talking themes. So you can go to the paid marketplaces and buy a professionally developed theme for money. Um, let's see. Let's talk options for customization. So if you go through this process and install WordPress and choose a theme, there's a whole range of options that they give you now that will allow you to kind of to change many parts of your WordPress installation, including the site title and tagline, the colors, the header image, the background image, the whether your front page is static or it's comprised of posts. All these things are things that you can play with without knowing anything about code. So those things are really good. And then there are plugins. So plugins are things that extend the functionality of your WordPress site. Common examples that people generally use are social media buttons or comment fields. So if you want to add Facebook comments, for instance, or Facebook like buttons to posts, sometimes you do that through a plugin. And Google Analytics is another one that I often put into sites via plugin. Another great aspect of WordPress installation are what's called widgets. So widgets are something that you see. I'm just going to flip to the next slide. Usually you see widgets in the sidebar. So you're probably very familiar with seeing them on the right-hand side of a blog, typical blog. And this is an example of the site that I worked on. So we put your module that has subscribed to emails. You can put your all your site social icons. You put a picture and a bio. All those things can go in the sidebar. So that's something that you see on the back end that looks like this. You just pick and choose. You drag them over. It's very, very simple. Widgets are something that I really love to use just for building pages themselves. So this is an example of a site that I made recently for the Hamptons Film Festival. And everything you see on this page is a widget. It's not like a normal page, like a static page. It's dynamic content that's being pulled in via widget. So that's something I like to do, and it's a fun thing to play with for sites, for sure. I am going to do some frequently asked questions that I normally get from writers and creative people about building sites, and we'll talk about some of the good answers to those things. So a lot of times people ask me, I'd like to DIY it. I'm not quite ready to hire a designer. I'd like to get experimenting and trying different things. I think that's great. Like I said, you can definitely start today. You could go to WordPress.com or go to Tumblr, go to Wix.com or Squarespace, and be able to build a site without knowing anything about coding. I do definitely meet people that want to do more of the WordPress self-hosted version, that kind of their own website that's powered by WordPress, but they're kind of doing it themselves. The way you do that is you go to you buy a hosting account, HostGator, Bluehost, something like that, and you install WordPress. Usually it's a one-click operation. And then again, what I would do is I would start with something really basic. So I like those default themes are great. Start playing around with that. And I just wanted to mention that I use a framework myself for development called the Genesis framework. I resisted paying for frameworks for a really long time. I like to DIY it. I like to do it for free. But I did once meet a front-end developer who said this Genesis framework is fabulous. Just speeds up my work, and it's very strong and secure code, and works incredibly well. It's easy to update. So I got hooked on Genesis. Genesis is a framework that you pay. I think it costs $80 to buy, and then there are add-on themes. So you can choose themes that you want to put on top of it. And what's great about it is many of the themes are so nice looking and so easy to use. You don't really need to do a lot of super deep customization to them. I do a lot of customization to some of my Genesis sites. depending on the situation. But for me, if I were in your shoes and I didn't really know a lot about coding and I wanted to put up a site that looked great and worked and functioned well, I would definitely go with kind of a Genesis type situation, and I think it's great. Another question is, how do I find a good web designer? This is such a wide open question. It's very, very difficult. I've been in the hiring chair too. Like I've hired web designers, so I've thought about it a lot. I've bid out really big projects to web firms sometimes, and so I have a set of things that I've learned over the years and from working with clients as well, about how you can approach the process. So first of all, you have the creative concerns. So I think the best way to start out with a web designer is to tell them what you're trying to achieve. So if you're a writer and you're writing a book, this is what my book's about. Here are the kind of audiences that would be interested in this book, and then see how well they understand what you're doing. Like, do they immediately say, like, if you're writing a book about Antarctic penguins, like, do they immediately understand, like, who's going to read that book, what kind of visual touchstones that person would respond to, like how you're going to reach that audience. So on the creative level, you just ask yourself, do I like this person's ideas? Does this make sense to me? You definitely want to ask your designer about mobile, and ask them, do you provide mobile responsive design? So this is a really interesting thing that I've been seeing a lot of. There are many sites that are still not mobile responsive. It's not that hard. So if a designer doesn't know what you mean or can't do it or doesn't have that in their bag of tricks, I would be very wary of hiring them, because when you look at your web traffic for your site, you're probably going to see, I'm going to bet you, that half your users are coming in via mobile. Mobile is not an afterthought anymore. It needs to be a forethought for us. So we need to think about mobile first almost. So I would definitely talk to the designer about what their strategy is for capturing mobile users. Their process. So what's your process for developing in WordPress? So if their answer is, I run and buy a $35 theme and kind of hack it a little bit, I don't know, that's up to you. It's up to you, but that would be something that would give me pause a little bit. Just learn about how they work and what their sites are founded in and what their philosophy for development is. And then security is a really big concern with websites. So how can you make sure that our website stays current and secure a year or more from now? So what steps do you take to make sure that the website is future-proofed? That's always a really important thing that I think sometimes gets missed in that web designer conversation. So these are just like a few things that I think about when I contemplate hiring someone and talking to them about what their work is like. I don't want to give short shrift to mobile. WordPress is a fabulous tool for creating mobile responsive sites. So what do I mean by mobile responsive? Mobile responsive just means a website that is able to adapt to the size of the screen that it's being viewed on. So as you can see in this example, this is the site Mashable. So what happens to their site when you view it on a tablet is that the right-hand column gets thinner, and then all of the little mini stories that are on the left become just like a running list. And then as you see it goes to the iPhone, they just have the list view. So all they're doing with this is they're rewriting the style sheet of their site. So it's not actually that difficult. It's what they're doing to the site is they're just saying, I'm going to create a set of rules so that when it's viewed on these different devices, it's just going to display slightly differently, which is not the same as having to create a website that is completely different for mobile. So mobile responsivity, that word is something that you should know and love, because it is a great word for us. It means that mobile development is much easier and cheaper. It's just a stylistic thing. It's purely stylistic. It is not a different website. It's the same website. It just appears different. So you only make one website. Writers, I want all of your websites to be mobile responsive. Definitely mobile is very important, and it's something that you should expect to get from your designer, especially if they're working with WordPress. So before I leave you guys, I want to give you a little bit of further reading if you're interested. So I do have a course that I put together that is for people that want to DIY it with a free theme with WordPress. So it's called Brand Yourself with a Custom WordPress Site. It's on Udemy. This is the link. I'm going to post the slide deck from this class later on Google+. I also put together an ebook that is a little more about the philosophy that we've talked about, called The Creative's Guide to Building an Awesome Web Presence. And also this, come back to my Google Plus page, because I will post additional resources for you as we go along. So I would love to create, an ongoing Google Hangouts on air resource, like maybe like office hours, and I will, be able to answer your questions there. So just stay with my page, and I will post additional information. This is my email address and my website in case you want to check those things out too. Happy to answer any questions that you have. I am going to switch this out of screen share mode. So that'll do it. So I hope you really enjoy this, and I'd really be happy to hear from anyone if they have thoughts on this screen share or this this session itself. Like, was this useful to you? Is there something else that you would prefer to know about? Because I'd love to do this in the future. I'd love to create some office hours and answer questions about WordPress. It's something I'm really passionate about talking about, obviously. So I hope you guys have enjoyed it, and I hope to hear from you via email. Thank you so much for joining me today.